Okay, that was Attack on Titan, Season 4, Episode 10. That was a great episode.
Great episode that had unusual energy for me. I don't necessarily at this moment, as starting the discussion, know how to articulate that strange, odd feeling.
I agree with you.
But it was definitely a different feeling than maybe I'm accustomed to.
Attack on Titan, the only similarity that I can think of is sometimes Attack on Titan has episodes that they give you more information on purpose. Mm-hmm. And I think that, like, to put you in a certain place, and I feel like that's where I'm at right now. And I'm trying to organize the information given, but also understand it enough where I can try to think about what could happen next and try to understand where all the characters mentally are right now.
Right. Like, this was like a little bit like a study guide episode of like, hey, these are the terms you need to know before the next couple episodes. And that is not a negative. I'm just trying to come up with ways to say how much information was given to us here.
Yeah.
And the pacing obviously was, I think the pacing was great for an informative episode. Like, if you're knowing that you're going to get all of this information, like, okay, we need to give them all of these facts.
Yeah.
And we want to give them in one episode. How do we pace this? You know?
I think, like, the way that they handled the pacing and the back and forth in regards to a couple of years ago and now.
2 years
I
now.
think,
2 years
like,
now.
It seemed like the entire time they were doing that, they had one goal in mind. And that was to inform the watcher that something changed. Fucking
like something changed, yeah.
Something huge must have like changed for there to be this massive change in character and not just the content of what he's saying, but the belief others have in what he's saying. Because sitting on the back of the carriage when everybody's blushing because of the sunset,
he says something so kind there
something
about
so
how much
similar.
He cares about them. And then later on in the episode, the current state, everyone's trying to figure out, like, does he feel that way still? And it's very personal. And then at the very, very end of the episode, we get Zeke sitting there. And it's like, all this time, we've been like, okay, something has changed. We're seeing what he was like 2 years ago, the Eren that we know. Because the 2 years ago Eren was the Eren that we have basically grown up with for a few seasons.
Eren standing up at the table and shouting was the Eren that we know.
Yes.
Yeah.
Everything he did in that episode, even saying something sweet to them about how he didn't want them to... He wanted them to have long lives.
Going back to what you said about it, though, it was like they picked the words right off of the page of the flashback and put them in the current timeline of the feelings of how Eren feels about the rest of the group and if they can trust him and his reasons for doing things as coming from Mikasa and how she kept trying to think of justifications for him. And it's really concerning to me because if I'm trying to get in the mind of the characters of Jean, Connie, wish it was Sasha, and a little bit Armin, I think from Connie and Jean's point, I am scared that they might start to think, has Eren ever cared? I don't have...
It's almost like the different ends of the spectrum. I mean, how different people would react to being told one thing and then someone showing an action that doesn't necessarily say love.
I just want to clarify that I completely believe Eren's always meant it to Jean and Connie and everybody.
Yeah,
and
I don't think he's a
genuine on that. And I think something changed, but I am just saying that I think Jean and Connie might start to doubt it themselves. And that's a scary thought.
Especially Connie.
Yeah.
I feel like Connie was the kind of main man on that train. I think Jean probably feels that way or is in a debate internally.
Yeah.
But I feel like Connie is a much more easily emotionally swayed person.
Yeah.
And I feel like that scene in particular was so amazing for emotional recall. It was so convincing that we got the scene of them 2 years ago having that moment where Eren says what he says to them and they're all blushing. All of them are blushing. And then we get this emotional recall where it's like all of them are thinking about the same moment at the same time.
Yeah.
And they're feeling it. And I mean, I think during the episode I said it's like a toxic relationship.
Yeah.
Because all of them were sitting there and some of them were trying to justify his actions. Like, no, he told us he loves us and he means it. And the other people were like, yeah, but that action he did doesn't really spell out I love you now, does it?
No, you're right.
And are you going to follow him faithfully even if he does horrible things like war crimes and killing children? Like,
well, it's
are you
not
gonna still
even
follow him?
It's not about if you're even going to continue to follow him if he does these things. It's coming into question why he's doing these
What his
things in the first place.
intentions are.
What is his plan? You
But
know?
it's also like,
Whose side is he on?
and they're also focused, and that's what shows that they all have a personal relationship with him, is they're less focused on what I had just said about this, him doing horrible things, and they're more focused on why would he lead us, the people he loves, this group of friends, into a situation where we all could have died if he says he loves us and wanted us to live long lives. It was so personal and like selfish in a way that was so real.
Yeah.
Like, they were more focused on the fact that this is their best friend who says that he loves them, and they feel betrayed.
Yeah. No.
And they're less focused on the horrible thing that he did and like, oh, how could we support a man that does those things? It's more like, should we even believe him?
I think it's thinking about what to do going forward. Like, and fucking props to Armin, man, because as hard as this situation I'm sure is on him, he is trying to think about what is best for his family, his friends, the people that he's grown up with. You know?
He's the benefit of the doubt guy.
He is, but he isn't. Like, Mikasa, I believe her character that she's just like ride or die and kind of in denial about it.
Oh,
but I am
major denial
so
there, I think.
glad that Armin has some sense of like, this isn't right. And like, he's like, I'm biased for sure still, but like, don't worry, I'm gonna try like to get information out of him
But that's perfect. Like, there's the bias there, but Armin's not ready to go to the point that Jean and Connie are, because Armin's the type of person that he needs you to literally tell him to his face,
yeah,
I don't love you anymore. Like, if you ever were to break up with Armin, I feel like you might have to like literally spell it out, and you couldn't just like send him some, like, you couldn't ghost him. He would just be like, wow, they need some time alone. They're probably really stressed out right now.
Armin would keep trying to fix things.
Yeah. Or he'd keep trying to fix things until you were like, dude, no, I don't want you to fix things.
Yeah.
Which is really sweet and endearing. And it's kind of like a puppy. Is Armin a puppy?
A little bit. He's a little bit of puppy.
What would Mikasa be? Is Mikasa a cat?
No.
Cats aren't really like, I mean,
Mikasa's
sometimes
not a
they
cat.
could be ride or die, but...
I want to start talking like through points of the episode because, man, I have a lot to try to like process, and it's easier for me to do out loud. Like, right off the bat, we have Eren looking in the mirror saying fight.
Very angry energy
But
in this whole scene.
I know that this could easily be something else and write it off, but we have to like, we did it with the orangutan when we first saw him, and that is something that, if I remember a couple minutes from now, I'd love to go back and see in season 2, episode 1. I think.
Season 2,
Episode 1, or whatever episode it was that the orangutan used his powers of control. Because back in that episode, I want to say it was yellow, but his eyes changed colors when he uttered commands.
Didn't we think they were like red and yellow, or were they just yellow? Now I'm trying to...
That's why I want to go back for it, just to double check, because there's no point in saying it if it's wrong.
Yeah, my memory is the most whacked up thing. Like, I have a really strong imagination.
Yeah.
So if you were like to tell me, like, the shirt I wore that someone wore yesterday was purple, I would start imagining that exact shirt they were wearing, but purple, and believe you.
Yeah, or like how I keep trying to remind you that together as a team, AutoSave, we wrote the word gullible on the ceiling while we were watching a movie, and you keep forgetting about it. But I think that we
was Annie's hair down.
I think we need to talk about Eren. And his eyes.
We don't talk about Eren, no.
You don't want to, apparently, because like they are very green. His eyes are super green.
Yeah, but then they were blue, and then we went back to the light.
Okay, this helps so much.
Okay, they are very green
window
there.
mode. Because like when it's in this mode, it's not as vibrant.
I'm unconvinced because of the warm light. from this
no,
angle?
you haven't seen it yet.
Okay.
So
this isn't as green as they get. They get greener.
No, it's the transition I'm talking about, because it's the transition that shows me that there's meaning behind it. Fight, very green, very vibrant. Fight. What are you doing? Immediately back to blue.
But isn't that the cool tone of the lighting there? He's in shadow. The warm light isn't hitting his eyes anymore.
I don't know. I think that they were super vibrant for a reason, and then as we watched again, I thought that there was another moment that they turned green. Is it when
he grabs Hanji and starts to like?
I'm gonna let it play out while
he starts to spark.
Talk on it. Yeah, but I throughout the episode, I think we might have gotten hints at it, or they could just be completely off base at what it is or what it could be, because like there are only so many reasons you'd say fight at yourself in the mirror, right? And if you try to connect that with seemingly like a personality change or at least an eye color change, then
are we fighting what happened to Reiner?
It makes you, if he's saying fight when he has green eyes and then it looked like his eyes are blue, then like it makes me think somebody else is telling Eren to fight, or somebody else is convincing Eren to do something.
You know which Titan would out of his Titans? Well, he just got the Warhammer Titan.
Yeah,
so it's true. Very possible that this newfound power will show itself in different ways, and we don't actually know how these Titans affect someone's personality. Like, does it change you at all to get it? Like, is there an animalistic aspect that's added on? Is there a personality change? Here, it could be the attack Titan taking the front, because the attack Titan is the Titan to continue pushing and fighting no matter what. But also, he literally just got the Warhammer Titan. Is there it's almost like you're putting a bunch of things in one body. Like, how are they going to interact with each other? The founding Titan was never supposed to be with the Warhammer Titan.
Like, it could be like you're going crazy, you're losing like a little bit of yourself the more that you're like putting into your body.
Yeah, because
like
you also
rage kind of thing.
And you also have the memories of all the people who had those Titans.
Yeah.
And the Warhammer Titan and the founding Titan were meant to be separate. They were not meant to be together. That's why the Warhammer Titan was in Marley with the original King Fritz plan. Originally,
they were all together as one being, but then it was split. Sure. I think that, I guess at the moment with what we got, a theory that I have is that something, whether it is the King's will, Zeke, a third party, or potentially even Eren in the future, is convincing him to do what he's doing. Like the fight.
Does Zeke have any control over Eren?
I don't think he has control over it, but
can he get inside his head?
In season 3, episode 21, we were told that everybody's connected by something that we can't see, and every subject of Ymir is connected to the founding Titan. I'm wondering if every subject of Ymir is connected to the founding Titan, then that wouldn't necessarily mean that two random people, one of them having the founding Titan, one that doesn't, they wouldn't have anything connecting them necessarily. But I'm suggesting that maybe since we saw Historia being able to recount Ymir's memories, and Historia is that of royal blood, that since Zeke is that of royal blood, maybe he has a connection to the founding Titan currently. Potentially. Or at some point in the future they will.
Well, you could always say that maybe their ties to that connection, to that kind of path connecting the cycle, the loop, everyone's connected. Maybe their connection is stronger because of their royal blood.
Or, yeah, royal blood, or we haven't really met people who are like half-brothers before.
Right.
We don't know how that works.
There's so many things that are at play here. Like, Eren has the founding Titan. Zeke is royal. Like, they're half-brothers. They can see memories of people before them, and maybe even remember things of people that come after them. Like, I feel like I keep forgetting, and we keep saying it, and every time we say it, it's like I'm learning it for the first time in, like, an excitement level. And that is when Kruger was like, Armin and Mikasa, you know? And that was the most wild and crazy thing. Like,
yeah. Like, it comes a little bit out of nowhere in some instances.
It's like sometimes you kind of forget that there's that like giant thing hanging out in the corner.
I think
like,
it's because it's intentionally been left somewhat vague, right?
well, we've only really gotten one reference of it, of someone being able to recall something that they don't understand where it comes from, and that we have been given validation knowing the characters' names that it's something that happens later on.
Yeah. So at the moment now,
You're looking at season 2, episode 1.
Yeah, and I'm trying to find the time where the Beast Titan utters commands.
I mean, this is a great episode to bring up too, because he grabs the gear,
It
which
seems
we
like
saw him use in this
yellow
episode.
eyes when he
Orders them.
Yeah, and is in control. And then they might be yellow already. Yeah, I think red maybe prior. Regardless, either way, it would.
His eyes are also really tiny.
Yeah, but I don't know. Thought that was interesting. Next note I have written down going into the episode was something that I am very confused about. I don't know what to. I don't know. It's fine. Like Mikasa has a tattoo. I'm a little offended that I didn't like. I thought Mikasa and I were cool. If you're cool with someone, you got to tell them about your tattoos.
Like I don't really. I'm kind of like, how did I not? I'm sure we've seen her wrist wrapped in bandages before, like this whole time. But I've always thought that that was an aesthetic choice. For people, like for characters I've seen specifically in anime, sometimes I think it's an aesthetic choice to have that. But why would a child do that? I don't know.
In my notes,
feel silly.
In my notes, season 1, episode 6, we learn about Mikasa and we learn about an embroidery pattern that was passed down.
Mm-hmm.
That we've been over throughout several seasons. Like we keep getting brought back to it because we want to know more about the Ackerman lineage.
Mm-hmm.
During this interaction, I don't think Mikasa had a bandage over her.
But she was also at home with her parents where she wouldn't necessarily have to hide that.
Yeah, but we didn't see it either, is what I'm saying. Oh no, she had long sleeves on. Look at you, Attack on Titan.
Purposefully trying to dupe us.
I don't know. I thought that I guess I was a little bit taken aback. I was more taken aback that she had a tattoo on her wrist rather than her having a connection to the Hizuru and the Azumabitos.
Yeah, that did not like.
I was like, huh, makes sense.
It's like cool. That was the softball. When really like a tattoo sounds like way less.
Yeah.
Meaning there's like, oh, it's a tattoo compared to you are like basically royal blood in another nation, and that the royal nation thing was like a softball to me. I was like, oh, okay,
it was like this massive drop of like Mikasa being this like forgotten princess of royalty, and I'm like, that makes sense. And then it's like Mikasa has like a little tattoo on her wrist, and I was like, this game is literally unplayable. Like, what am I doing? But I was like, I was so taken aback. But
this game is unplayable.
Yeah, I really actually like the connection to a separate country or the land. You know, I think it makes it's like it's a loose end that didn't need to be tied up, but it feels good that it was. Again, season 1, episode 6, all we got was that she was the last refugee of a clan from Asia, and there was an underworld auction. And it just, I don't know. I like how this kind of puts everything nicely together and packages it.
Yes. Would you say that Levi does not have that because of his upbringing? And
Correct.
His mother never really got to get to a point in life where she might have been ready to pass down something like that?
Well, It seems like Kenny made the executive decision. Like he knew a lot, right? He knew who the Ackermans were. Kenny knew a fuck ton, and Kenny
especially later in life once he found the royal family.
Yeah, well, yeah, and I don't know. Part of me wonders, like, okay, is Kenny doing this to save Levi from anything? But again, timeline wise, it wouldn't really add up. I just don't think. It seemed like something more personal and attached to the Ackerman family name, which held more of a regard in Mikasa's family rather than Levi's, I think. But Tattoo is crazy. Meeting the other country that has, like, is the only ally to, what, Marley?
No, they're the only ally that
to Paradis. Yeah.
Paradis. Because that's what we call it now here on this
I feel like
channel.
you're trying to get me to say paradise so you can do a paradise nuts joke on me, and I'm not falling for it. This whole thing's a ploy.
Well, like, even if I was, now that you said it, I can't.
You
So
still can.
maybe when you least expect it, but not right after.
Dude, I can't believe they addressed the fact that they were keeping Yelena and Eren separate. That was like my leading theory. That was my even if it was just passing by, handing off a note, or saying one sentence, that was my leading theory. That, like, Yelena was the messenger. And I was like, holy shit, they've been keeping them from each other the whole time.
I mean, like, especially, it's so realistic once you start thinking about how suspicious the people of this island are after everything that they've been through, that we've seen them go through. Their government got overthrown. They had, like, a coup, you know? And now Historia's in charge, but she's just a kid who no one even knew existed. The royal family they thought was royal was fake. And, like, now they're learning that other nations are the ones trying to attack them and not these, like, alien titan beings.
Yeah.
Like, of course, all of these people, even if I get a little grumpy when they're being overly suspicious, of course they're being suspicious. It perfectly makes sense, unfortunately. Because I like Yelena, and I don't want her to turn into a villain. Because did you see her in that suit? I was, like, powerful.
Yeah.
I know all the other Marleyans were wearing the same thing, but powerful.
Yeah. How do you think Zeke knew or put together the fact that Mikasa was from this lineage of another country and knew it was an important enough starting bargaining chip to offer up to meet with Lady Mikasa? Do you think that it was completely visual and that of race, and in this world they were able to tell and Zeke just made the assumption back to a country? Or,
well, he might have been able to tell from meeting Levi, because didn't Zeke think that he might have said something when he fought Levi about specifically Levi being something, or him noticing the look in Levi's eyes. But that doesn't connect to Mikasa necessarily, unless Zeke knows all of their last names. But I gotta, in this point, bring up, we know that the Tiber family was close specifically to this other nation. We saw this lady have a secret conversation with Willie before Willie declared war. So I'm like, what about that was performance on Willie's end? Like, was Hizuru playing both fields? Like, did Zeke and Willie ever have a talk? There's some question marks there in terms of, like, obviously if Hizuru's focused on who's gonna give me the most money, you know,
facts.
Then I'm sure they want to keep good relations with both the Tibers and with now Zeke, who is their connection to Parody.
Yeah.
It does not sound right to say Parody.
I'm sorry, I'm gonna keep saying Paradise. I
don't want to make people cringe every time we say it.
I can be 100% wrong, and I won't know until the series is over. But guess what? I've been saying it already for the past season, so I'm fine. I'm content with just saying Paradise. But I do think that the acknowledgement of Zeke being, I don't know, having this bargaining chip or having this incentive to meet being Mikasa is very interesting, because it can just be explained away like, oh, I could just tell like that's where she was from, you know. But what would the conversation have been like if Mikasa didn't have the tattoo? Like, just like, oh no, trust me, like here are my sources, and then list nothing, and just be like, just like, you know, believe me. It'd have to be pretty great confirmation to be like, are you really this person? And Mikasa's like, I've never shown this to anybody. Boom, you know, other than Eren, which I didn't know. But
I don't think there was any way of us knowing that.
3 conditions for this plan.
Okay.
There's going to be a test of the rumbling, the sample of power.
How do you do a test? How do you do a test of it? Do you just yell and then immediately put all of them back to sleep after a rumble happens, after a major earthquake?
I don't know. So if I'm trying to think how I do a test of it to show a quote unquote sample of my power, part of me thinks that has to entail destruction of some kind. Mm-hmm. But a more visual part of me wonders if it's just I'm gonna have every one of these millions of colossal titans fan out into every edge of Paradis and make like the ultimate wall. And there's not gonna be any brick and mortar covering it,
even if
bitch.
there weren't, yeah,
Like,
exactly. If there were no
Yeah.
covering, imagine being on a ship pulling up to the island
and just
seeing that.
like you're gonna be saying
Let's
you're
turn
gonna
around.
be saying colossal hoe before land hoe
I
if you're on a
know.
ship. Like,
Like, we're gonna turn around now.
no offense to Armin, he's a nice lad, but he's gonna like, I don't know, man.
Armin is a sweet baby.
Yeah. So the test of the rumbling, sample the powers. Hizuru's cooperation, which is basically the monopolization of the resource, which
And they are not allowed. They do not want to allow Parody to work with any other nations.
Yeah.
Because they want this. And so they will not work with them if they choose to try to have good relations with other nations.
Yeah.
That runs.
And the resource is called Iceburst Stone, right?
Iceburst Stone.
Is
Why
that
have we never heard... If that is their term for it, how have I never heard it?
Well, how it's described reminds me of the crystallization, right? I like always thought it looked like ice.
Yeah, but didn't
But
they
we've never
start using
yeah.
that right after they...
Because they used it as luminescent ore, right?
Yeah, but I remember there being... I remember Levi talking earlier about what it was like in the underground, and we knew that there was a resource that I think
true.
was being mined there.
The last was number 3, founding, and the founding titan will be passed, and the royal blood will be passed down.
Mm-hmm.
It was a pretty big moment. One for Historia, because I kind of knew that she'd do it, or like at least agree to it at first. But I didn't think it actually happened, but I knew that she'd agree to it because that's the kind of character she is.
She agreed to it at first.
And Eren was like, fuck no, that's my last resort.
So we see two people changing at the same time here. Eren, 2 years ago, said hell no. Historia said okay. And then 2 years later, Historia's like, ooh, I'm pregnant now. Oops. And Eren's like, I changed my mind.
I don't know.
And then they threw us like a nice little love story for Historia.
Yeah. I think that Eren comparing them to livestock again in a different way
to bring it back.
Is like, I think it's so well done because it does bring you back to this is the Eren that we've grown up with, you know?
Like before they were being kept isolated in a cage like livestock, and now we have they're being bred.
You trying to tell me that those eyes are not blue?
Those are blue eyes.
Okay, and the other ones were green.
I was not trying to tell you. I was saying there was warm lighting in a dungeon, and I think it made the eyes look greenish.
I wanted to talk about...
And the water looks like honey because of the warm lighting.
Does it?
It did. It does look like a little bit like honey. It's like honey colored.
Yeah.
Important details.
Honestly, it is. We gotta talk about these things.
He's the benefit of the doubt guy. He's the benefit of the doubt guy. He's the benefit of the doubt guy.
He's the benefit of the doubt guy.